Ehud Olmert, welcome back to 7:30.
Hi.
Now, there are different streams of negotiations, we understand, now underway. But Iran won't begin any real discussions on its nuclear programme until money starts to flow from frozen assets, from sanctions, from the sale of oil. Has the US been outmanoeuvred?
I don't know if the US is outmaneuvered. Question is what the president wants and what was his initial expectation about the war. I remember the president talking on the 28th of February when it started that the regime must collapse and that Iran will have to surrender all its nuclear program. I think in the meantime it has turned down to just one step, which is to open the Straits of Hormuz, which were open on the 28th of February, and I guess that the closing of the straits was not anticipated, regrettably and unfortunately, by the attacking forces, not by the Americans or the Israelis. So I think that the other objectives are becoming secondary to the possible economic impact on the international community of the fact that the Straits of Hormuz were closed and the opening of them became first priority. However, I still think that there is a chance that the nuclear program of Iran will be supervised and inspected and controlled as part of an agreement which will not be a dramatic change from the original agreement that was signed with Obama in 2015, but it will at least perhaps relieve some of the possible worries about a future military nuclear program by Iran.
Now, the MOU requires, as I said in the opening, that the conflict ceases in Lebanon, but it's not clear whether or not the Israeli military will be required to leave southern Lebanon, the positions it now holds. Do you understand whether the Israeli military will leave or remain in Lebanon?
Well, as you know, I'm not a supporter of this government, and therefore I can say primarily what I thought from the beginning, that the ground operation in the south of Lebanon was unnecessary and was not going to contribute anything to the real national security interests of the State of Israel, because the range of the rockets which they, or the range of the drones which they're using against Israel was far beyond the security line that Israel was trying to establish, and therefore I thought that we need to look for a different approach. And my desire was that we will seize the opportunity offered by the Prime Minister of Lebanon, or the President of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun, to start negotiations for possible political agreement between Israel and Lebanon. It's still on the agenda, so this is something that I personally think should be pursued. And then within the context of a peace agreement between Israel and Lebanon, we can possibly think about a joint operations to disarm Hezbollah, which is certainly an interest of both Lebanon and the State of Israel. The linkage between Iran and Lebanon is certainly a surprise, but as you know, the Israeli Prime Minister is kept on the side on this process of negotiations, and as Trump said, he doesn't ask Netanyahu what to do, he tells him what to do, and Netanyahu has to abide by his orders.
Now, is there concern in Israel that if that money that flows towards Iran that I laid out at the beginning, that Iran could use that money to rearm, further strengthen Hezbollah?
Certainly the linkage between Iran and Lebanon and the possible economic benefits that Iran is going to entertain as a result of the agreement, with this linkage means that the Iranians will continue to support their proxies unless there will be a concerted effort made by both Israel and Lebanon together, with the possible support of outside forces such as the government of France, which is always very interested in what happens in Lebanon. So if there will be a concerted comprehensive effort that may disarm and block the possible supply of weapons and financial support to Hezbollah. But certainly this is something that will need to be taken care of urgently and seriously, and I'm not certain that the American negotiators are privy to all the sensitivities and the peculiarities and the complexities of the situation between Israel and Lebanon to be able to deal with it effectively as was initially expected.
Now, I just want to move on to a different topic. As a former Prime Minister, you wrote a public essay over the last few days in which you said that the State of Israel is committing an organised state-funded campaign of ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity in parts of the West Bank, the occupied West Bank. What specific events led you to make that statement?
This is what I wrote, yes. This is what I wrote. I wrote an article which says, unlike and against the accusations made against Israel for a long period of time that we committed a genocide in Gaza, that is not true. We didn't commit a genocide in Gaza, and there was no government involvement in decisions that may have caused crimes which were committed during the war, but which were not guided or inspired by any government policy. This is not a situation in the West Bank. In the West Bank, where it is completely, totally controlled by the security forces of Israel, on a daily basis, there are crimes committed by a large group of settlers, and they can do it only with the assistance of the Israeli police and sometimes the indifference of the Israeli army units which are stationed in those areas. And these crimes are part of an effort of these settlers to clean the territory from the presence of Palestinians towards the possible future annexation of these territories to the State of Israel. This is totally, morally unacceptable. This is not something that we can acquiesce with. This is not something that we can tolerate. And this is something that I don't hesitate to call it by its name, because without the support of the Israeli government, without the participation of the law-abiding forces which are in charge of these territories, they couldn't have perpetrated what they are perpetrating. And I'm not ready that anyone in the world which knows about it, which hears about it, will think that the Israelis acquiesce with it and tolerate it and do not protest against it. So I spell it out in the most explicit manner, because I want that people across the world, and now in Australia that we talk, they will know that a large part of the Israeli population is appalled by this and is fighting against it and will do everything to stop it, because we are fighting here for the soul of Israel, and this is not something that can be tolerated.
And just very briefly, Ehud Olmert, what do you expect the government of Australia to do faced with that description that you have levied?
Well, you know, I invest enough energy in fighting the Israeli government. Now you want me also to be an advisor of the Australian government. I think that I can speak up for what I think and what hundreds of Israelis think. In fact, just a couple of days ago, along the publication of my article in Haaretz in Israel, a group of hundreds of former Israeli senior generals, fighters, Mossad commanders, IDF commanders, police commanders and others, together with the two former prime ministers, Barak and myself, signed a letter of warning to the Prime Minister of Israel and to the Defense Minister about the events which are taking place in the territories. And I think that the Australian government is, I'm sure, and certainly the embassy here is fully aware of this call, of this letter, on the sentiment which expresses, and they will know how to react.
Ehud Olmert, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.